Good morning, guys. Today we'll look at game Chigorin versus Rubinstein and other games. First move, Chigorin versus Rubinstein. e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, d4, knight takes c4, bishop e7, bishop f6, gf6. Bishop f6 is more reliable. Knight f3, f5, knight g3, c5, bishop b5, knight c6, c3, castling, bishop takes c6, bc, castling, cd4, bishop b7 should have been played. Knight d4, queen c7, queen h5, king h8, rook f2 e1, f4. Here bishop b7 would be better. Knight e4, f5, or c5, knight g5, bishop g5, queen g5, c takes d4, c pawn takes knight, queen f6, king g8, rook e5 with an irresistible attack. Knight g5, bishop g5, queen g5, e5, queen h6, bishop d7, knight f3, rook f2 e8, or rook a2 e8, or rook a2 e8, knight f5. Knight e takes c5. Knight g5, the most decisive. Rook e7, queen f6, rook g7, knight f7, king g8, knight h6, queen h8, rook e5, queen c8, queen c8, rook e7, rook, queen f8, rook f7, black resigns, queen c8, rook e7, rook, queen f8, rook f7, black resigns, queen c8, rook e7, rook, queen f8, rook f7, black resigns, queen c8, rook e7, rook, queen f8, rook f7, black resigns, queen c8, rook e7, rook, queen f8, rook f7, black resigns, queen c8, rook e7, rook, queen f8, rook f7, black resigns, queen c8, rook e7, rook, queen f8, rook f7, black resigns, queen c8, rook e7, rook, queen f8, rook f7, black resigns, queen c8, rook e7, rook, queen f8, rook f7, black resigns, queen c8, rook e7, rook, queen f8, rook f7, black resigns, queen c8, rook e7, 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 rook f7, black resigns, queen c8 This was the first game. The next game, Queen's Gambit, Rotlevi versus Rubinstein. D4, D5, Knight F3, E6, E3, C5, C4, Knight C6, Knight C3, Knight F6, DC4, DC5, Bishop C5, A3, A6, B4, Bishop D6, Bishop B2, castling, Queen D2. The queen is unhappily placed here. Rotlevi should have played C takes D4. C takes D5. Queen E7. Bishop D3. D takes C4. Bishop takes C4. B5. Bishop D3. Rook D8. Queen E2. Bishop B7. The eminent Soviet master Romanovsky wrote of this opening, "It is now clear that the four moves used by white to place the bishop on d3 and the queen on e2 mean the loss of two tempos. This led to his defeat." Castling, Knight e5, Knight e5, Bishop e5, f4. Rook f to d1 would be better. Or Bishop c7, e4, Rook a to c8, e5, Bishop b6, King h1, Knight g4, Bishop e4, Queen h4, g3, and now Rook takes c3. One of the best ever combinations. Black unusually effective next move. Unusually effective next move reveals depths of the Rubinstein idea, wrote Romanovsky. Gh4, Rook d2. A remarkable position. Harmonious cooperation between piece and precise calculation are inherent and in Rubinstein's combination. Queen d2, Bishop e4, Queen g2, Rook h3. White resigns. Very beautiful game. Next game will be Alekhine versus Levitsky. c4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, g3, bishop c5, usually now d5, bishop b4 or c6 is played. Bishop g2, knight c6, d3, e3 is better, a6, d3, a6, a3, d6, knight f3, h6, knight d5, bishop e6, queen b3. An unhappy choice giving black the initiative. Castling, castling. The pawn b7 cannot be taken. Queen b7, bishop d5, cd5, knight f5, and white loses his queen. Castling, castling. Rook b8. Knight d2. Knight d5. Bishop d5. Knight d4. Queen d1. Bishop g4. Rook e1. c6. Bishop g2. f5. h3. Bishop h5. b4. Rook a7. Bishop a7, sorry. Knight b3. f4. g4. Queen h4. c5. If g takes h5, knight b3 with double blow at f2. Knight b3, queen b3 check. Bishop f7, queen c3, h5, d4, hg4, hg4, bishop d5. The prime and white's king of a real defender. d5, bishop g2, king g2, queen takes g4 check, king f1, dc5, bc5, and in this position bishop c5. This move settles the issue. Queen c5, queen h3, king g1, rook f5, queen c4, king h8, queen f4. Neither is there any salvation in bishop b4 because queen g4, king f1, rook f4, queen c3, rook b to f8. And continue. Queen f4, rook f4, bishop f4, rook f8, e3, rook f5, f3, queen f3, rook a2, g5, rook f2, queen e4, rook h2 check, king g7, rook g2, rook f4, white resigns. And the next game will be Smolitsky versus Nemtsovich. e4, c6, d4, d5, knight c3, d4, knight e4, knight d7, knight f3, king, knight g f6, knight g3, e6, bishop d3, queen c7. The start of a dubious plan with castling the queen side. The simple bishop e7 gives roughly an equal position. Queen c7, queen e2, b6, bishop d2, bishop b7, castling, bishop d6, bishop e7 is better. Knight f5, long castling. Short castling should have been played. Knight d6, queen d6, a4, c5, a5, CD4, AB6, AB6, bishop A6, knight B8. Knight C5 is preferable. Bishop B7, knight B7, knight E5, queen C7, rook A4, queen E7, sorry, rook A4, rook D5, rook F to A1, knight F to D7, bishop B4, rook D5, just wait a minute. Bishop B4, D3, queen B4, knight B4, knight E5 would have been more tenacious. D3, CD3, queen F6, queen C2, knight C5, because will be checkmate if knight C, if for example queen takes, will be checkmate. So knight C5, rook A7, king to C8, D4, black resigns. That's it, my chess friends, and I wish you all the best and have a good day.